Great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
What's up, everybody? I'm Kyle. Dan will be with us just momentarily. This is In Stores This Week here on The Experience. There he is. Hello, Dan.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Good afternoon, Kyle.
I only know Spanish as it relates to professional wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah. I failed every foreign language I ever took in school, including English twice. So.
You know English isn't a foreign language, right?
Yeah, but it is the way I do it.
Okay.
It's been a long day.
Remind me not to greet you in Klingon someday.
You know, there's a better chance I would understand what you're saying in Klingon.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Welcome into In Stores This Week. I am Kyle. He is Dan. This is my brand new microphone. I'm very excited about it.
Ooh.
Right.
Nice.
It literally showed up during my 6 o'clock show. So.
Is that why we're starting a couple minutes late? So you could get it set up? No.
We're starting a couple minutes late because more news happened than I expected to have happened. Did you see that Citizen Kane is no longer 100% on Rotten Tomatoes?
No.
A review that came out in 1941 was recently discovered and it brought it down. 80 years later. Right?
Damn that Hearst.
Well, it was the Chicago Tribune. So, yeah. But we're not here to talk about movies. Even though movies, right?
Yeah.
We're here to talk about new comics that are going to be in stores this week.
We are. I even got to read one of the new ones this week already.
Ooh, which one?
Shadow Man.
You want to start with Shadow Man?
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited about this one.
All right. Let me find the cover here because it's actually in here. I have it loaded twice. Because it's on both of our lists for this week. That's Shadow Doctor. Boom, Shadow Man.
Shadow Man. First thing, I am a big fan of Valiant books. I love the way they do their business. I love the fact that they keep it to a limited number of titles a month, that they do a run, then they put it away and let him rest for a while, and they bring out someone else. So Ninjak's around for a while, then he goes away, and Exo Man of War, and it kind of rotates around, and it's time for Shadow Man to return. And the other thing I like about Valiant is that each of their books have a very unique feel to them. You know, Ninjak is your espionage book. It's your James Bond book. Exo is your superhero, your Iron Man type book. Shadow Man is their horror book. Yep. And they tap Cullen Bunn, who is great with horror, and John Davis Hunt to do the artwork. And like I said, I got to read this yesterday. They sent out a review link, and I'm like, hell yeah. And it is a great read. It's a setup, but it's a complete story setup in this way, where you don't come out of it going, a lot of comics nowadays, they give you just this little tiny bit of thread to get you started, but don't actually get much into the story. Cullen gives us a story, gives you the background on John what's the character Boniface, Jack Boniface, and how he's tied into the other world. What is the other side? Is the other side?
What did Cullen called it?
Other side, flip side, something like that.
Yeah, flip side.
Flip side. So how he's kind of the protector between that world and ours, and it's starting to break down. And there's this group of people who are trying to find a way to open up the portal. They want to go sightseeing on the flip side, and that's a really bad idea. And we see it. And this is definitely a horror comic. Colin does a great job. The art is wonderful. I was really, really excited about this book. So even though I've already read it, I'm going to go ahead and pick up a copy tomorrow when I go to the shop. Because
sure.
Yeah, this is going to be a good series.
Yeah, I mean, so this book was on my radar, and in fact, Miss Jen and I both worked really hard. She had Cullen on her interview show yesterday afternoon. So if you go back and watch Talking Shop with Miss Jen from yesterday, the first half an hour, she's talking to Cullen Bunn about this very book.
Nice.
If you go back through the pantheon of Valiant, you get back to the very beginning, and who's there? But Jim Shooter and Bob Layton.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come a little bit further, and it's Dinesh and Adam Freeman and the guys who are running Bad Idea now.
Yes.
And there's this new iteration of Valiant that's still sticking with those original intents, those original rules that Valiant set forward. We're not going to publish a ton of stuff, but everything we publish is going to be quality.
Yes.
We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it simple for retailers. It's going to come out on time. It's going to be right. All of these kind of things. And, I'll be honest, Shadow Man is the only character I read from Valiant, hardly ever, with the exception of the most recent Archer and Armstrong stuff, because it's kind of their comedy book. Yeah. So it's Shadow Man and Archer and Armstrong for me. So I was really excited that it's back and that it's Cullen Bunn, and that John Davis Hunt is the artist, and his art on Clean Room was just insane. So I was very excited for this team up on this book, and it's definitely one that, given the opportunity to jump in on a new Valiant title, is a good place to jump in.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're otherwise into horror. You don't need to be into superheroes or even alternative superheroes like Exo Manowar or Bloodshot or any of those guys. Yeah. This is a different thing. This is closer to, if I had to equate it to someone in the Marvel universe, it would be like your Brother Voodoo kind of character.
Yeah. Actually, I was doing that today, trying to figure out, because I always equate Ninjak as kind of James Bond meets Batman.
Yep.
And I think of Exo Man of War as if Tony Stark gave Conan a set of armor.
Yeah.
And I go down the line like that, Eternal Warrior is Thor, where his brother Archer or Armstrong is Hercules, the more drinker and stuff like that. And then they team him with their version of Iron Fist, and just down the line. And then I got to Shadow Man, and I was like, I guess he's a bit Constantine, but not quite.
Yeah, a little bit Constantine,
but
a little bit Brother Voodoo.
Yeah, there you go. That's the part I couldn't connect, because it does have a big New Orleans feel.
I always kind of thought of him as Brother Voodoo or Sandman, Neil Gaiman's kind of Sandman. So this is a great opportunity to jump in on something that's easy to consume. It's Cullen Bunn, so it's well written and easy to read, and it'll be a good fit for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, after that, do you want to? Last week we ended with Marvel. Do you want to start with Marvel this week?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
All right, let's cue up the Marvel, and we'll start with. I guess it's kind of Marvel.
Yeah, this one really caught my attention. This Marvel basically went out and they got Chris Sprouse to do a series of covers to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and they put them out over the years. And now what they are doing is they're actually collecting all of those covers into one place. So if you're a fan of A, Chris Sprouse, B, Empire Strikes Back, or C, just really cool freaking art, this is a great thing to pick up because it's, like I said, it's the collection of all the covers he did, and it's everything he's covering. He's got the bounty hunters, he's got Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Yoda, all the stuff that you see in Empire Strikes Back, which is arguably, and I don't think you'd get a lot of argument, the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So that's all you really need to say about this particular. I mean, Chris Sprouse has done so much great work in the industry with Black Panther, Thor. I mean, just amazing work out there. And they get him to do this series of covers. I wish we had more to show, but I mean, just the Yoda one there is gorgeous.
Right. And there's an O'Hari variant that's a play on the original Hildebrandt Brothers movie poster.
Right.
So this is the art. This is the covers that he has done for every anniversary so far in one book.
Yep.
And again, Chris Sprouse is some of the most iconic Star Wars art is Chris Sprouse. It's the Hildebrandt Brothers. There's some Howard Chaykin stuff that, from the early comics. Maybe, there's, some of the stuff that's been done more recently. But it's really Chris Sprouse. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. So if Star Wars fans, check this one out when you hit the shops tomorrow.
All right. I tried something new this week to try to be faster at this, and guess what?
It's not working?
It's not working.
Black Widow.
We are to Black Widow.
All right, guys, if you want to read more Black Widow but didn't jump on early, this is a new starting point for you. This is a new story arc. This is going to bring back a lot of old allies and new ones, introduce some new ones, and it's supposed to be kind of a new mission for her, and it's all based in San Francisco, which is interesting because if you're a historian or a fan of Daredevil, back when it was Daredevil and Black Widow in the comics, they did spend time in San Francisco. Daredevil moved across the coast for a little bit of time. So having her back in Frisco is interesting. But you get her with the Golden Gate Bridge, and you got Kelly Thompson and Rafael de la Torre doing the artwork. With the movie coming up, Black Widow is going to be really big, and this is a great jumping on point. Like I said, they wrapped up this last arc, which was supposed to be really emotional. So if you grab this book, you read it, then I'm sure there's going to be either you can go back and grab the other 5 issues. Your retailer will be happy to find them for you, or there's probably going to be a trade for the first 5 issues pretty quickly. So you can get back into the city, you can catch up pretty quickly, but this is the place to grab it if you want, new Black Widow story. And that cover is very cool. It has a
Adam Hughes
feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Adam Hughes cover.
Oh, yeah, it's a gorgeous cover, but it's not what Adam Hughes normally does.
That's very true. You can kind of see it in the shape of her body.
Yeah.
That's how Adam Hughes does that. But the rest of it is very off of style for him.
Yeah.
Whoever did the layout design for them with him did a great job. And I love the idea of Black Widow, especially coming out of the last volume of Black Widow, which was a heavy volume. There were some stories in there that you're just like, that hits you right in the gut, not in a way you expected it to. Moving her back to San Francisco, a place where the character has some history, but where Marvel doesn't necessarily have a huge character history.
Right.
Gives you an opportunity to really kind of reinvent the wheel, as it were, with these stories. So I like that this is a good jumping on point here for number 6. I think 5 issues is a good arc, right?
Yeah.
For people. You know, you can wait 5 issues before you jump into a character you might be into. So this is a great place to start with Black Widow. And it is, just so you know, the same Black Widow. It isn't, you know, Natasha Romanoff. It's not some other Black Widow, you know, that's been in the comics that isn't the one from the movies. This is the one you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, take a stab at it.
Yeah,
and the Bay Area is a great setting for superheroes too.
Yeah.
Like I've
It's a
often
very
thought
unique
about
setting.
that.
It's a very unique setting. The Bay Area is very different than anywhere else in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got so much opportunity with iconic, you know, like buildings and places, but then also San Francisco Bay and the Pacific Ocean and all that is right there, which gives you a lot of opportunity with character crossovers and other things that you might not expect
Right.
from out there. So
hey, maybe Shang-Chi's going to be in it because, you know, we just saw he's in San Francisco in the movie. Maybe there's a connection there. It's a long shot, but hey, Shang-Chi.
yeah, I could be down for a crossover between Shang-Chi and Black Widow. It would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
We have this guy here, Fan Four Stick. Fantastic Four number 31, which is you know, I normally don't have Marvel on my list.
Mm-hmm.
But the solicitation on this one and this cover.
Yeah, this Mark Brooks cover, right?
I'm going, all right, I'm with you. Let's go. So, I mean, this one is, and again, this is another place you can jump in. Issue 31. You know, Reed Richards is finally getting to explore using the Forever Gate. He could travel to a new realm in the Marvel Universe where no one has gone before. And of course, he's going to take Ben with him. But you also know that if it's Reed and Ben, they're going to screw it up somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's how Ben became, you know, made out of rock and Reed became a giant rubber band. Like, it's because they're not good at their jobs.
Oh, no, they're good at their jobs. The problem is that their jobs are very specific. Ben's job is to keep Reed out of trouble. He's not very good at that, but Reed's job is to explore and do all. None of it is to keep safe, you know.
Yeah.
And this is like a kid in a candy store here, you know. Reed getting to, with as brilliant as he is, a whole new world to discover. You know, does science work the same there? I mean, this has got to be him giddy but like back when he found the negative zone.
Yeah, but
space to discover.
You know it does. You know it's not going to go well.
Of course not. Why would they show us a book about happiness? You know.
Well, that's fair. But I mean, it's just with those two guys. You know, it's just never ends the way you want it to. And there is a Pacheco variant on this one that I think is kind of worth noting. It's the Heroes Reborn variant.
Right.
That kind of is a reference to Reed and Ben before they became the Reed and Ben that we know and make fun of. So check that one out.
Dan Slott and R.B. Silva on this book.
Mm-hmm. Right. And R.B. Silva is one of my favorites. You know, I didn't know I liked as much of his stuff until I started paying attention to his stuff. And I'm going, oh, he did this other thing I liked, and then he did this thing that I liked, and then that thing. I got it now. So there's a one-shot this week from Marvel in the form of more Man-Thing.
Yeah, it's sort of a one-shot, and it's sort of not. Because this is a 3-parter that started with Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing. Then we have the Amazing Spider-Man Curse of the Man-Thing is the second one. I'm not sure what the third one is. Maybe Kyle knows.
No, but we're all hoping it's Man-Thing, Curse of the Man-Thing.
Yes.
I can tell you what it is. I just looked it up.
Ooh.
But I want to leave it with the joke.
Oh, okay. I was hoping for Brother Voodoo Curse of the Man-Thing, personally.
It's actually X-Men, Curse of the Man-Thing.
Not as fun.
No.
Yeah.
Man-Thing, Curse of the Man-Thing. Man-Thing goes to therapy.
Yeah. Curse of the giant-sized Man-Thing.
Yeah. It's true. But no,
always
it's
be giant-sized Man-Thing.
so. I mean, this one is Man-Thing's supernatural abilities have been pirated thanks to Harrower, who is a zealot intent on clearing humanity off the board, so that a new species can get a shot at the top. The world burns, and fear is the accelerant. Meanwhile, Spider-Man races across New York, desperate to avert disaster and find the one man that might be able to help get through to Man-Thing.
Is it the Lizard?
It is the Lizard. Dr. Kurt Connors makes his triumphant return to a Spider-Man book after only a few weeks. But can the Lizard talk to the Man-Thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right. I mean, is it just about being green at that point? Like, is it?
It might be. I mean, he could have got the Hulk or She-Hulk or Gamora then.
Does Kurt Connors just walk in and go, "It isn't easy being green"? Like, I don't understand.
Birds suddenly appear.
Oh, now I'm getting Carpenter stuck in my head.
Don't know why that's
it's
my Kermit the Frog imitation, but okay.
Written by Steve Orlando, who, as we've mentioned before, and I keep mentioning, is on an absolute hot streak right now.
Yep.
You have the second part of this Curse of the Man-Thing story, again, that was kicked off by Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing and will be concluded in X-Men Curse of the Man-Thing, probably just to bring around a solo series called Curse of the Man-Thing.
Yeah. I am curious about this horror character. We don't get a lot of really good new villains. We get some really bad new villains, but this one's pretty good so far. So I'm curious to see how, and I like how she wants to wipe humanity off the board. That's a nice way of saying she wants genocide.
Well, that, or she just wants them to not exist. Like, I don't know that it's, with super villains and bad guys, is it necessarily genocide, or is it just reconfiguration?
No, I still think it counts as genocide.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at least dictionary definition.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Although I used to know a thing, and I don't know if this is true anymore, but when I was in college working with some political stuff, the definition of genocide was variable based on who was in charge of the United Nations at the moment.
The political definition of genocide. All right.
Well, no, it was one of those things. Is I'd be like, doesn't that count? And they'd be like, technically no, because this, and I'd be like, so. But that was during the beginnings of the Darfur conflict and some of that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it was a weird time to be involved in that, and I don't really want to get into that. That's a heavy topic. But Man-Thing and Harrower probably, they probably need Man-Thing to help prevent that from happening. And I think if we had Man-Thing at the time, would have been a more interesting time.
Yeah, it would have. And guys, we need more Man-Thing in the world, so you guys need to buy this book so we get more Man-Thing comics.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's true. Before we go on to the last book that you had on your list and that I actually also had on my list from Marvel, I wanted to mention Beta Ray Bill, #2, from Daniel Warren Johnson. And the reason I want to mention it is that the first one was very, very good. The second one is a continuation of that story called Valhalla is Calling. So it's Beta Ray Bill hunting for Odin. So just check that out if you dug the first one. And even if you didn't really dig the first one, I would imagine that because of the nature of Beta Ray Bill, there was a bunch of people who picked it up because of how hot Thor has been and how hot the character Beta Ray Bill has been. and we're like, wait, what's going on? Just keep reading, because inevitably it's going to get crazy, and when it does, you're going to want to be there. So, last book from Marvel this week.
The Marvel.
The Marvels, #1. And now, just so you guys are aware, there have been Marvels, The Marvels, then the Alex Ross Marvel thing. This kind of combines them all. Written by Kurt Busiek. I'll be honest, I will buy this just for the cover art.
Alex Ross, yeah.
It's Alex Ross.
Yeah. But this is Kurt Busiek's game. This is what he does best. It's the same thing he did with Astro City, with his previous Marvel stuff. This is his strength, and getting to play into the gray areas of the Marvel universe, and the areas that don't normally get covered, whether it's like street level, man on the street stories or big cosmic epics. He pulls them all together into one cohesive story, and it's amazing how he does it. And this one here, it talks about everything from picnic in Prospect Park, superhero sightseeing in Manhattan, the All-Winter Squadron from 1947, Reed Richards during his time in military intelligence. Did you know Reed Richards was in military intelligence?
I didn't know Reed Richards was in any kind of intelligence.
Or in any kind of military.
There's another joke there somewhere, but it ain't coming to me.
Yeah. Cosmic Beings, Beyond Space and Time, and they say that's only for Spartans, but you get Captain America, Spider-Man, the Punisher, Human Torch, Storm, the Black Cat, the Golden Age Vision, which is an interesting character, Arrow, Iron Man, and Thor. So, and you got Yildiray Sinar's artwork. I'm sorry if I slaughtered his name.
That sounds right.
Yeah. It's a cool looking book. You got Richard Isanova doing the coloring. This is
what I think is
big.
One of the things that I think is funny is that there is a variant that's a Bill Sienkiewicz variant.
Cool.
Regular art cover by Alex Ross, both of which are friends of the EXP through Wednesday nights, Rupp's World Comics Live here on the Experience. He works with both Bill and Alex. So if you're into this book, if you pick it up tomorrow off the rack and you're like, I'm into this book, I would tune into Chris's show tomorrow and see if maybe he doesn't have something of interest to you.
Ooh, a teaser. Got a cliffhanger there, guys. Got to tune in tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know that to be true. I'm just saying that usually when those two guys are involved, he's got something that people are going, wait, what? What? I got to have that. So I can't promise anything, but also, I would take my chances.
We have to be good. Nick's watching.
No, we don't.
Oh, good point.
What's he going to do? Like drive to California?
Good. Yeah, that's true.
Stop us? What's he going to do? So, but he can be in the comments and help us with some of these Italian names sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Out there. It's something we both struggle with. Yep. Put a little accent on them for us. Mm-hmm. Before we take our first break, I would like to hit Image Comics.
Okay.
There are a few books from Image this week that are worth mentioning.
I had one specifically on there.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I'll start here with Two Moons. #3, you guys have heard me talk about Two Moons now every time it's come out. Just remember, you're missing out if you're not reading Two Moons. I don't really want to get into it because I'm not sure I could talk about this book without spoiling the first 2 issues. The book is that tight and that well executed and that well thought out. But it is hard to talk about going forward without telling you exactly what has happened. But just know the title of this book is called The Iron Noose. Remember, this is set in the Civil War, following a soldier who is serving in the Union Army, who is also part Pawnee Indian, and who is coming to terms with his shamanic roots while serving in the Union Army, and everything gets sideways from there. So, 2 moons.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have one on your list, Dan?
Yes, Helm Greycastle from Top Cow.
Oh, I have that under a different category because Top Cow is listed separately.
Oh.
Top Cow is listed as its own thing. Okay. But we can totally do that.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this book. This is Henry Barajas, who is the publicity guy over at Top Cow, but he's also a writer. He's teaming with Ramat Handauko and Brian Valenza. And this is basically Latinx fantasy. He's the same author as who did La Voyez de Mayo, Tatia Rambo. See, I knew my Spanish would come in handy tonight. And this is all about the last dragon prince has been abducted, kept prisoner by an unknown threat, the Aztecs Mexica. Helm Greycastle, I want to say Grayskull, and his outsider comrades are here to save the prince, but are recruited by a resistance plotting to overthrow Montezuma. Now, part of what I love about this is, Henry is a great writer, and this is a good spotlight for him because it's going to get him more attention. I like the idea of it being a Latinx fantasy, but also this is going to tie a bit into Dungeons and Dragons. And Matt Hawkins, the president of Top Cow, is also a GM or a DM. Mm-hmm. And I've played with him and a group of others for a while. We had a 2-year game. Well, Henry has talked Matt into doing a televised Greycastle D&D session. And I'm not sure how quick that's going to happen, but Matt's already threatened that I have to be part of it too. So, read this book, watch it, and then you'll get a chance to watch these characters or this world come to life also in a live D&D game.
Right. This is the mythology that's in that Aztec mythology. When you think about movies or things like there was a Disney movie that really kind of capitalized on it and animated where they were searching for gold.
Yeah, I can.
But
the name of the city,
huh?
It's the name of the city,
right? It'll come to us later, and you'll text me or I'll text you and be like,
Nick?
We'll be like, son of a. But it's that kind of mythology, that kind of Aztec, again, Latinx fantasy. But the thing that was most telling to me when I listened to Hannah talk about
the road to El Dorado.
Yes, El Dorado. Yes, the city of gold.
Yes.
But the thing about this one to me, and this is what Hannah said, is that she wishes she had brushed up on this more as a kid, because this it's such a strong and interesting mythology that we don't hear enough about. We hear about Greek, we hear about Norse mythology, Roman mythology. We don't hear a lot about this Aztec mythology, and so this is a great way to jump in on it. And yeah, it's got a D&D feel, a D&D tie-in. You bet your butt if Henry needs another player, I will sign up to play, just because I love D&D and I love mythological D&D. So if you're into the sword and sorcery, you're into the Dungeons and Dragons, you're into, kind of discovering a story with a rich history looked at from a different perspective, this is totally a book for you.
Yeah, we talked about that last week about learning mythologies that we don't know. And that's one of the great things about comics is that when they dive into these different mythologies, here's one that rarely ever gets any kind of spotlight. So Henry's doing that, and I think this is awesome. And this includes, it says here, bonus Helm Grace Castle #1 includes a Latinx one-shot RPG 5e compatible written by Tristan J. Tartwater and art by Jen Vaughn.
Boom. So now you can play it.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about a one-shot like that is that any game master or dungeon master worth their salt will be able to take that one shot and turn it into an ongoing for you.
Yes.
If you have a gaming group, this is a great way for you to go, hey, let's try this other thing for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then
great way to bring in new players, to play people have never played before. You bring them into a one-shot. I've done that a couple times. I ran one for my nephew's birthday, where I created my own one-shot and brought in players who had never played before. So one-shots are great. I mean, D&D just put out an entire new book of one-shots called Candlekeep Mysteries.
I just bought it. I haven't read it yet, but
I bought the digital version on D&D Beyond. So not that.
Yeah, I bought it. I think I bought it on Roll20. I bought my copy on Roll20.
Okay.
Because since the pandemic, that's how we've been playing. But actually, believe it or not, the last time I played was Christmas. And we did the guy who ran it did a Christmas themed one shot. Other than that, I'm a game master. It's what I do on one of my days off is I game master.
Nice.
And so I'm really excited to just have a bunch of one shots just to throw at people.
Yep.
So that'll be super fun, and that'll be something I will gain out of that book. So, other Image books this week that are worth noting: Shadecraft #2, Joe Henderson and Antonio Fabella. If surviving high school wasn't hard enough, now Zadie has to contend with her killer shadow monsters too. I remember this is a book where it's what if something actually lurked in the shadows and was trying to kill you? Yes. And what if you knew? And how would you deal with that while also being a teenage girl?
Yeah, and that is such a great cover.
I thought book 1 was phenomenal. It was one of my favorite books that week. And this one is great too. There is a Lotte variant that is also good, but this one is so like, it just screams every fear. If you had anxiety and went to high school, this happened to you. Like, that it's a thing that's totally relatable to people. And then the other book I wanted to mention, only because the cover is by a friend of mine, and it's a great book. This is Bitterroot #12. This is part 2 of the Legacy story, with a cover by my dudes Stanford Green. So just Bitterroot's been going on for a while. It's originally it was one of the and David Walker was on our BCU show, our BCU event that we did, Black Comics Universe. This is a creator-owned by Black creatives book. So just know that that's what this book is, and it's been phenomenal ever since day one. And now it's just getting better and better. Issue 11 really knocked my socks off, so I'm very interested in what issue 12 can do.
Hey, is Summoner's War Legacy? That's a Skybound. That's a Image, right?
Summoner's War Legacy is
I think that was on my list as well.
I don't see it listed under the Legacy or the Skybound or Image. But give me a second, we'll check it out. while we take a commercial break.
All right. Good time.
We'll be back in just about 2 minutes while I figure out where Summoners War went, and while we both grab a drink of water. So we will be right back here on The Experience. Stick with us.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Welcome back, guys. This is In Stores This Week. I am Kyle. I'll be joined again momentarily by Dan. We are talking about new books that are out this week, but I want to remind you guys, wherever you're at, click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure, no matter where you're at, you can do it on all the platforms we're live on right now. You hit the bell. Get those notifications when we go live. We go live at the beginning of every show now. So you'll get those notifications whenever a show you like comes on the air. And that's a great way for you to remember when stuff is and what stuff is and how things are, I suppose. But it also gives us an opportunity to talk to you about our schedule. And I just want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up. Our schedule is expanding. Bum, bum, bum. More on that soon. But it's coming. Something all new, perhaps. So, or something different, or, those kind of things. But changes are a-coming on the Experience. And so make sure you're signed up for our mailing list. Head over to comicshoppingexperience.com. Sign up to be on the mailing list. That's how you'll know.
Unless they're psychic, then they can know just by knowing.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't make my life any easier, but I suppose that's true.
I think signing up for the mailing list is easier.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not for you because you have to help me with the mailing list, but still. All right. So I found Summoners War. Believe it or not, it was listed under Other.
Really? That's weird.
Because it's two publishers.
Skybound and Image.
Yep.
All right. This is first thing. The solicitation got me. This is based off of the video game Summoners War. Where you summon monsters to fight good versus evil. Basic video game stuff. This is a story of Ray, who knows the only way out of her little nowhere town is to become a summoner, and then she gets to apprentice with Aubus Dean, and embarks on the adventure of a lifetime. Now, writing this book is Justin Jordan, who's did The Strange Talents of Luther Strode and Reaver, so you know it's going to be good.
But he also did a very underappreciated book at Aftershock called Backways.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one, but yeah, everything I have read of him is great. But then it lists, it says, and newcomer Luca Claretti. Luca's not a newcomer. Luca has been doing books for a while now. He and I did a miniseries together over at Zenoscope, which was Age of Darkness Neverland. So we did the Neverland story, a 4-issue Neverland story over it. He's done the Jungle Book and Grim Fairy Tales and White Queen, and he worked on Adventure Time. So Luca's not a newcomer, but he's a damn good artist. And here's a new book from them. So it's Justin Jordan and Luca Claretti, and it's based off the video game Summoner's War. And it's a #1. So if you want to jump on, here's a new place.
Maybe newcomer to Image. This is his first Image title.
Yeah, that could be. But they don't say that in the solicitation. So.
No, that's pretty shady of them.
Yeah, someone
And
needs
we're going to call him out here on the air.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very protective of the artists I work with. So if you come out,
yeah, we're going to call him out for not doing their homework. But I will say this. So Justin Jordan has written a ton of great stuff. And he does really good with this kind of video gamey sort of feel. Backways had that sort of feeling, which is my favorite book by him. It's a little bit Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere meets some Native American mythology. Pretty good story. With a really good love story in it, which, is not something you always get in an action book. So the reason I bring it up is that Justin Jordan is really good at the emotional stuff. Kind of not just the storytelling of action and moving a plot along, but really getting you to feel when you don't want to feel feels. Mm-hmm. He does a really good job of going, hey, this is how the character is emotionally tied up in this situation. So you can adequately kind of comprehend what they're going through. Is that a good? I mean, you've read Justin Jordan's work. Is that a good kind of?
Absolutely. He makes a very good balance between world building and character building, and that's the key. If you're good at one of them, you're lacking. I mean, most times, if you're good in one of them, your story is lacking if you're bad at the other. So Justin can balance those two and does a very good job of it. Absolutely. So he crafts a really good story. And
Summoner's War is a free game on your phone.
Right. And they say free, but that means that you can play it. But then if you want
microtransactions,
that's right.
All right. So before we head over and talk about DC, I would like to talk just very briefly about SourcePoint Press.
Okay.
Because there are only 2 books on the SourcePoint Press line, and one of them 2 books from the SourcePoint Press line, and one of them we just on the air broke some news about during Jen's Minute to Skim It show this evening.
And what was the news?
And we'll start with, this is Cult of Dracula #2 from Richard Davis. You may remember Richard Davis from our EXP Expo way back in January. When we kicked this whole shebang off, Richard came on because Cult of Dracula was being solicited at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a book that bounced around publisher to publisher for a minute before finally coming to a rest over at SourcePoint. But issue #1 sold out at distribution during the first week it was in stores. Issue #2 has officially already sold out at distribution.
Nice.
And I, not being a writer myself, being a person who sells things, I can tell you that when a book sells out that quickly, they're on to something.
Absolutely.
And I would imagine that as a writer, it would give you a ton of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Confidence in what you're doing.
It gives you a mixed feeling. You get a ton of confidence in what you're doing, and then anxiety of the fact that you may be leaving money on the table because there's not enough books to cover the demand.
Okay.
And by the way, that is the life of a writer. It's that balance. Every good thing, there's an equal bad thing that balances out. So you're never too high, and you're never that well. probably a little more low, but anytime there's good news, there's that equal bad news that comes with it to balance it out. By the way, that cover has such a Hammer horror feel to it. That is amazing. The logo, the artwork, it feels like it's a Hammer horror from the 1960s and 1970s that, Christopher Lee is probably playing Dracula in the comic book.
Right. Exactly. And that's what this book feels like when you read it too.
Yeah.
Is that it's totally inspired by those books. Now, the other thing I want to bring up about Source Point Press, guys, they are the 4th biggest release schedule this week. Marvel, Image, DC, Source Point. That's new books out this week. They have 7 titles out this week.
Wow.
Yeah. Source Point is a company that is growing very quickly. And great problem to have. But this week, also coming out from Source Point Press is Damn Cursed Children #4, Suburban Dead End Kids, A Suburban Job #4, both of which have been very popular. The Eighth Immortal #4, which I have been pushing like crazy because I love it. The Era of Great Wonders #5, and Warcorn's Combat Unicorns for Hire #4. So they've got a lot of series that are kind of at the end of their first story arcs. With some of these, and then they have this, which you saw commercials for here on the Experience for months and months leading up to its ordering. This is 20 Fists #1. This is a comic about fist fights and bad romance. That's their line, but that was also the line that opened the commercial. This is sort of like Fight Club, but not exactly. It's about the relationships between people and their story in kind of this ultra violent existence that they find themselves in, being a member of the 20 Fists Fight League.
Never talk about Fight League.
And to draw, yeah, it's true. Never talk about Fight League. But do talk about the Experience. The Experience is opposite Fight League and opposite Fight Club. Tell everyone.
Exactly.
In fact, we have a little bumper that will be debuting in the next couple of days that sort of explains that to you. I've been working very hard. I had to get permission. Believe it or not, I had to get permission from the BBC to do it. But they were really great about it. So, but this is sort of a Fight Club meets Romeo and Juliet story. Sort of an interesting take on it. Jen had the writer Frankie White on her show yesterday. So it's Cullen Bunn and then Frankie White. Shadow Man and 20 Fists in 1 hour. So make sure you check this one out as well.
So Frankie White's the writer. If you look on the listing for the credits on the cover, his name is last.
Right. Cat Bowman, the artist, is first. And I didn't get to listen to the interview. I don't know if maybe that's like the order in which maybe Frankie came to the project last. I don't know.
Well, it is alphabetical.
Well, that works too.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody's a co-creator. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that. But Frankie White was on the show, and Cat Bowman's art is stellar.
Nice.
So check this out. It's a once a month coming out. And by the way, guys, I'm just going to give you, it's a three issue series right now. I'm just going to tell you that the cover for issue 3 is, to quote Kelly Kapoor, BANANAS. Bananas.
Oh, okay. Had to work that out.
Yep. So just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Source Point Press. There's somebody we'll be doing a lot with here on the Experience. And also, if you watched the 6 o'clock show today, I had Pat Kowola on, who is the editor and one of the writers in a new anthology out from Source Point Press this week called Get in the Game. It's his first published work. and it had a lot of first timers in it, but also a lot of well-known industry folks in it as well. So make sure you check that out. That's a trade paperback from Source Point Press this week.
Nice.
All right, we got a couple minutes left. Do you want to hit another small publisher and then do Marvel at or do DC at the top of the hour?
Yeah, because I've still got I've still got a handful of books left on my indie list. So yeah, just pick one. We'll go.
Let's go over here and do. Well, we can really do the one book from IDW. Because as far as I'm concerned, IDW only put out one book this week. As much as I like Sea of Sorrows, it's this. The Magic of Cybertron.
Yeah. Now, you were talking earlier about Archer and Armstrong being the comedy book over at Valiant. That's not true. The comedy book is Quantum and Woody. And the writer for that for a long time was James Asmus. And he's the writer on this book.
I always found Archer and Armstrong to be very funny, too.
Oh, no, it is very
that
funny.
Brother relationship. Like, I feel like that's an action comedy.
Yeah. But
I
think Archer and Armstrong is an action book with a lot of comedy. Quantum and Woody is a comedy book with some action.
Deal.
Okay. So, My Little Pony Transformers 2. So, they've done this once before. The Magic of Cybertron.
I really wish they'd have called this Cybertron as Friendship.
Oh, that would have been good. You should.
That would have been dark. Oh no, that would have been dark on a level that I'm not sure bronies are okay with.
So it says, while using the modified space bridge to bring magic to Cybertron, the Decepticons end up unleashing a more powerful evil,
ponies,
Equestria, than they ever could have imagined. Look like the only way out of this one is to team up. More ponies, more bots, and more magical mayhem as two worlds collide in the return of this hit crossover event. So yes, this is not the first time that Optimus Prime has met the bronies. Kind of feel
Am I
like
the only one who finds My Little Pony absolutely terrifying?
Yeah.
My Little Pony gives me the same nightmares as Care Bears.
I could see that.
Has
there ever been a Care Bear My Little Pony crossover?
Don't give them any ideas. That book will have to be rated like NC-17, man. Has to come in a black poly bag.
My Little Pony, Care Bears, Civil War.
All right. Somebody send them an email. It's a good idea. Dan needs to write it. Let's do it. All right. No, I love the Transformers, but only as far as I can throw them, which isn't very far because they're huge. That being said, Transformers crossing over with the ponies is just an exercise in insanity. And you're right. James Asmus is the guy to write that insanity.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a cover that is the WonderCon exclusive cover that is hysterical to me.
Do we get to see it?
No. Because I tried to save it and it wouldn't save, like, for whatever reason. The file type is weird. Let me see what I can do. But it's the ponies on the castle on Cybertron.
Uh-huh.
Like looking out over the world like the Transformers. Let's see if it worked. Open. Come on, don't crash. It didn't crash.
Yay. I like it.
It's hysterical to me. So just know that this book is everything that dreams or nightmares are made of, but it's also going to be a heck of a lot of fun because, well, they've got the right people on it.
Yep. Maybe the third team up should just be called Nightmare Fuel.
I'll be honest. I think the third volume should be called Friendship is a Warm Exhaust.
With the garage door closed.
Yeah. Ooh, that's dark. Even though my reference to friendship is or love is a warm gun is a pretty dark reference anyway. All right. And then one more thing I wanted to reference or I wanted to talk about from an indie before we went to break is from Humanoids Press. This is Count #1. It's by Ibrahim Mustafa, who, if you're not familiar with his work, that would make sense. But the big thing that you probably know him for is his work on James Bond Origin.
Right.
And then Savage Things at Vertigo. But he also worked on the Stranger Things and Godzilla in Hell and did Flash Season 0. But he's one of those guys that he does a ton of work and flies completely under the radar.
Yeah.
But the premise of Count is it's a sci-fi reimagining of the greatest revenge story of all time, The Count of Monte Cristo. So if you've ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo, the movie, if you've ever read the book by Alexander Dumas or Dumas, depending on your political point of view, this is that, except with a sci-fi edge. Framed for treason and wrongfully imprisoned at the hands of a jealous rival and corrupt magistrate, Radaxin Samud escapes his hovering prison colony hell-bent on retribution, given a map from his dying jail companion to the location of a stolen cache of Union credits, large enough to make him wealthy beyond imagination. Samud concocts a plan to exact revenge on those who conspired to let him rot in a cell. So it is very much futuristic.
Count of Monte
Count of Monte Cristo. Yeah. But Humanoids Press is one of those really, really small companies.
Yes.
That occasionally, and I say this with all the respect in the world, they occasionally hit a lick like this. They'll get a book and it'll just be absolutely perfect. They do a lot of great work, but they kind of go unnoticed because they're so small. But they get books like this that will really put them on the map in a new way. And so this is a place to jump in on a publisher that maybe you don't know enough about, maybe you haven't been following, but that are going to be, I mentioned Source Point is the 4th biggest release schedule this week.
Mm-hmm.
That will someday be Humanoids.
Yeah. And if you don't know about Humanoids, Humanoids has been around a long, long time. They're a European publisher first, and there wouldn't be a Heavy Metal if there wasn't Humanoids. Heavy Metal was originally Metal Hurlant that was published over in Europe. National Lampoon got the rights to publish a version here, and they changed the name to Heavy Metal because they thought it sounded better, and more American. But Metal Hurlant has been a huge book over in Europe. Humanoids has been a big company. It's Alexander Jodorowsky, Mobius. So a lot of your big European artist stuff come out of Humanoids, the Meta Barons, stuff like that. This is more newer stuff. Fabrice Sapolsky was their managing editor for about a year or two back. So they do a lot of changes. They've tried to establish a foothold here in the U.S. a few years ago. About 20 years ago, they started doing Metal Hurlant here. It's actually my first published work was in Metal Hurlant. My first paid work was with Humanoids. So this is a company that they've been around a long time. They don't rush their artists. So they will put a book together and then just let the creative team work until it's done and giving them as much time as they want. There was once a story about Travis Charest doing a book for them. I don't think it's ever come out, but he was just working on it. He might still be working on it. And that would be about 20 years now. So
Well, and it's worth noting that this is not a trade, but it's 136 pages, and it's $17.
Yeah.
So it's basically trade size from Humanoids. So you're getting a whole story. You're not goofing around with, a ton of different books at a ton of different times. This is it. I like Humanoids a lot, and that was before I knew that my buddy Dan started there. Like, this is one of those that I pretty much buy Humanoids when they put something out, because they don't put out a ton. They don't mess around. It's always good, but they're one of those publishers that, in my mind, for my money, is going to be a real big deal at some point with the regular mainstream comic crowd, because they've got what it takes.
Yeah.
So, with that said, let's take a quick break.
All right.
Here at the top of the hour, we'll come back with DC and more indies. So we will be back in just about call it 2.5 minutes.
Go.
See you guys then.
There's a town that lies nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains in the great American state of Pennsylvania. The name of the town is White Ash. With a town charter dating back to 1714, it's one of the oldest towns in the country. And as you can tell from how hard those smokestacks are puffing, it's also one of the coldest. Thankfully, the people of White Ash have a secret that's dark and very deep. A secret to keeping warm, bituminous coal. From bituminous coal as a product ingredient comes heat, power, transportation, and necessities and luxuries almost beyond count. And where, you might ask, does all that coal come from? The answer is places like Alden Mountain and towns just like White Ash, where it's dug from the mountains by the hardest working men in America, our coal miners. But while an industry supports the town supports the industry. Here are two of White Ash's finest young entrepreneurs, Catlin and Kyle, owners of the Double K gas station. Coming or going, they'll get you there. But a town can't be all work and no play. Hello, Alec. Hello, Lillian. Where are you two kids going? Why, they're going to Sif's. Don't let its Nordic theme fool you. The most popular place in every American town is the local diner, and Sif's is no exception. Home to the world-famous Stack Attack, Sif's have been filling the bellies of White Ashians since 1895. Yes, White Ash, founded by men who came from the four corners of the earth, bringing with them innovation, can-do spirit, and dark, dark secrets.
Welcome back, everybody, to In Stores This Week. I am once again Kyle, as I suppose I will continue to be. I don't know. Dan will be rejoining us here in a moment. Just remember to head out to your local comic shop tomorrow to pick up new books. You can find your local comic shop at comicshoplocator.com. Head over to comicshoplocator.com, type in your zip code, and it will tell you where there are local comic shops near you. It will also tell you some things about the events and things that comic shops do, like Free Comic Book Day and Halloween Comic Fest and library partnerships and things like that. So if you head over to those places, you can, if you head over to Comic Shop Locator, you can find out about all of those places. Also, I'm going to ask you again, sign up for our mailing list over at comicshoppingexperience.com. Just scroll down a little ways and sign up for the mailing list. And we will get you your information. We'll share with you information through our mailing list. It's a great way to be a part of things and to know what's going on. Dan is back.
I am. Sorry I'm late. I was looking up how to spell the word Schadenfreude.
Enjoying the suffering of others?
Yes.
Germanness. Germanness.
Okay.
As someone who is recently done their Ancestry.com and is more German than you'd think by looking at me, which I don't see how that's possible, I can say that.
I thought for sure you were a Viking. I was just waiting for you to wear a horned helmet to the show one time.
I thought I was more Viking than I am too. Turns out like 0% Viking.
Most of my life, I thought I was part Irish because my grandmother was born in County Cork, Ireland. Well, it turns out she was born there, but didn't consider herself Irish. And actually, in her 90s, I mentioned her being Irish. She was insulted, said she was Scottish. And what the hell was I talking about? And turned out, yep, I'm Scottish.
We got people, we got some help on ours, and we traced it all the way back to when raping and pillaging was actually a thing. And we got all the way to William the Conqueror and realized that you can't really go any further than that because, well, it gets a little bit where your tree doesn't tree as much.
When did raping and pillaging stop being a thing? Because
it was like just the thing you did on the weekends. Like, you know, just like, we're going to go.
My weekend plans, hang on.
Right. No, it's one of those things like we got way back to like, you know, the year 800. And you went, you know what? I think we're good.
Yeah.
There is some interesting parts of my family, though, from around the War of the Roses and the First Crusade and that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
That there's actually documentation for. So, should we go to DC?
Oh, sure. Why not? Let's hit that.
All right. So let's start with this guy here. It's a number one.
Yes.
Robin
number one, Joshua Williamson and Gleb.
We're going to do this whole thing in accents now, aren't we?
Oh, yes. Gleb Melnikov. After learning the deadly Lake of Lazarus tournament, Damian Wayne has a new...
Can't do it. I can't hold it together. All right.
I could do accents all night long. Damian Wayne has a new mission, winning the tournament and proving he is the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But first, he must find the secret island where it's all going down. This is okay. Basically, this is Mortal Kombat. It's Bloodsport, Mortal Kombat, Street Fight. I mean, it's a tournament, and Robin's joining the tournament. So Damian Wayne. It wouldn't make sense for any of the other Robins to join this tournament. But Damian Wayne, I can absolutely see him wanting to be part of this.
Did you watch the Harley Quinn animated series? That's on HBO now.
Most of the first season. I haven't gotten back.
So he shows up in the second season.
Okay.
And this reminds me of him.
Doesn't he show
this reminds me of that Robin.
Season?
Huh?
He shows up a little bit in the first season, doesn't he?
I don't remember if it was the first or second season, but he's like trying to make Harley Quinn his version of the Joker.
Yes.
Like his nemesis.
Right.
Fight me, Quinn, fight me. Like, this reminds me of that.
Yeah. I have always had a hard time taking Damian Wayne seriously.
I think the only person who takes him seriously is him.
Yeah. I was Dick Grayson, great Robin, moved on to Nightwing. Jason Todd, he was dead before I even got to care. Tim Drake, loved Tim Drake, thought he was a great Robin. And then suddenly there's this child of Batman. I'm like, okay. How many Robins do we really need? This guy goes through more Robins than Murphy Brown went through secretaries.
Wow. That's a deep cut.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay.
Am I wrong?
I'll be over here.
Teen Titans Academy, number 2. Speaking of Robins,
Brown.
The questions mount around the new school formed by the original Teen Titans. So basically, this is the Teen Titans training room, or the academy. And there's a guy running around as Red X, which was originally Robin's disguise to be a bad guy. So I love the cover, how they've got everybody dressed as Red X. That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's something going on with Billy Batson's access to the power of Shazam.
Shazam.
Mm-hmm. I always thought the guy that played Gomer Pyle would have been a perfect guy to play Shazam.
Well, okay.
Jim
Are you
Nabors.
ready?
Yes.
Jim Nabors. There are episodes of both Gomer Pyle USMC
Mm-hmm.
and the Andy Griffith Show where Jim Nabors is reading Captain Marvel comics.
Yes.
Now, this would have been before the whole Captain Marvel changed his name to Shazam.
Right. But he still used the magic word.
Right, which is where Jim Nabors got it.
Uh-huh.
So the whole fact that he goes, Shazam, Sergeant Carter, is because Jim Nabors was a fan of the comics.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the design for Captain Marvel was based off of Fred McMurtry,
Mm-hmm.
From the old sitcoms too. So
yeah. So like it all comes back around when I make jokes about Shazam, or I call him Shazam.
mm-hmm.
That's a reference to those things that they all tied together. Did you know who else was a big collector of Captain Marvel and Superman comics?
Who?
Jamie Farr.
Interesting.
He had a massive Golden Age collection of superheroes that he gave to his cousin or someone when he moved to LA, and the cousin then gave them to someone else. And it's been one of my side jobs the last few years is to help hunt down Jamie Farr's collection.
Oh, nice.
Because a lot of these people still know who they gave them to, and we're finding little bits of it here and there that still exist. Not much, but some of it.
Speaking of MASH, something I found out yesterday involving MASH was I didn't know Alan Alda could sing.
Uh-huh. Alan Alda grew up on the vaudeville circuit. His dad was a vaudevillian and a Broadway actor.
I know
so
that.
Alan Alda had to learn it.
Yeah. But he sang that he posted a duet he did with Carol Burnett from the old Carol Burnett show yesterday because it was Carol Burnett's birthday. I was like, damn, that guy can sing too. He can do anything.
Oh, yeah. Alan Alda can do. I met Alan Alda once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He came to speak at the local library.
Nice.
Because Jamie Farr is from here. So they, it's one of those things is that Jamie asks those guys occasionally show up. Mike Farrell, I've met a few times. Loretta Swit, I've met a few times. The only still surviving member of the original cast, of the cast of MASH that I haven't met is Gary Berghoff.
Now, that's the one I've met.
There you go. I've not met Gary Berghoff.
Yeah, he was at WonderCon.
I would love to.
Back when it was still in Oakland.
I would love to meet him, but I just haven't yet. It'll happen.
You've met the good ones.
Hey, it does. I still want to meet them all, like as many of them as I can. The guy who played Igor, I've met. He does a podcast now about MASH called MASH Matters.
Cool.
But anyhow, back to Teen Titans Academy. Just so you know, Tim Sheridan written, penciler by Rafa Sandoval. Issue number 1 sold out across the board. Issue number 1 is really difficult to come by. Issue number 2 looks to have the same makings. So just know that going in, get there early to your comic shop if it's not already on your pull list. If you want to jump in on this.
Yeah, they got
also
here.
There's a side story in here with Raven that intrigues me. It intrigued me kind of the hints at it in the first issue, and now more stories on it in this issue. So it might be the most intriguing part for me, aside from who is the new Red X.
Right. Yeah, the Raven story involves a pupil named Dane, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So other books, and this is a relatively light week from DC. Only 8 titles out this week.
Yep.
Is Batman Detective Comics numbers 1035.
Yes. We get a new villain in Mr. Worth. And I love the description for Mr. Worth. It says when his daughter is
married
killed,
to Mary.
What?
Is he married to Maryworth?
And you talk about me doing deep cuts.
For those of you paying attention, Maryworth was designed by an artist who at the time was working for the Toledo Blade.
Yes, tonight is the useless information night. We've been.
I bought a great many of his original strips recently. Well, not recently, last year.
Nice.
They're being archived for the Toledo Museum of Art.
Yeah. So when you're looking at this cover and you're thinking, wow,
that guy's got a cool mustache.
Yeah, but did they get the perspective wrong on this? No. Mr. Worth is 8 foot tall. So this is what it says. When his daughter is killed during the brutal crime wave gripping Gotham City, 8 foot tall stack of muscle and money, Roland Worth sets out on a path of revenge towards the prime suspect in the crime, Batman.
The Batman.
The Dark Knight has been framed for murder, and to make matters worse, which is how much worse can you get than having an 8 foot tall, muscle bound guy who's rich coming after to kill you? But the grisly deed seems to be connected to yet another emerging villainous force on the horizon. It's a rogues gallery's explosion, and this time there's no mansion on the hill for Bruce Wayne to mount his counterattack. And there's a Huntress backstory. He's got an 8 foot tall bad guy now.
I don't remember how tall Bruce Wayne is supposed to be.
6'3".
Okay, so Bruce Wayne is basically my size.
Mm-hmm.
And loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that'd be pretty scary.
Yes.
Not scary. Not scary with that mustache though. Like, see, that's the thing, right? Like, if you're gonna be scary, like, shave off the weird hipster stash.
The porn stash.
But it's got curls at the end, which makes it a hipster stash.
Oh, I see. You kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shave off the weird hipster stash and be like truly terrifying. Also, who wears that kind of getup these days? If you're going to look like a supervillain, you're going to become a supervillain. But I will say this: I like the idea of an explosion of the rogues gallery. You know, one of the things that's happened in Batman, and I feel not for the worse, not for the better, not for the worse, is that his stable of villains has somewhat stagnated. You'll have a new one show up and then disappear just as quickly as they showed up.
Yeah, they don't stick around, but then they didn't really stick around in the past either.
No, they didn't. But what I'm getting at is this kind of idea of the way you get around that is to constantly be adding new ones.
Yeah.
And to have an issue where you're adding 3 or 4 new people to the rogues gallery, like you're hiring temps, just hire a bunch and see what sticks.
Yeah, but I think of the classic of the Riddler. The Riddler had been in like maybe 1 or 2 books, disappeared for a long time, came back for 1 issue, and it just happened to be one of the issues that they picked up in the 60s to look at to figure out how to do the Adam West TV series. Mm-hmm. And the Riddler was on it, so they went, "Oh, we'll make this the first villain." So right. Had he not popped, we would never have seen Frank Gorshin as the Riddler had one of the writers just decided to bring the Riddler back at that point.
Right. I mean, and Dick Sprang doesn't get enough credit for inventing the Riddler.
Right.
But, it's one of those, you're right. You never know when a bad guy is going to pop off, but one of the ways to do that is to keep having them come back. And if you're not going to keep having them come back, at least have a mile's worth of them.
Yeah.
So we got one more book from the list for DC this week.
I've got 2 on the list, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2. But we'll start here.
Yes, Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossimo. I know you're a fan of Riley. And
Well, I'm a friend of Riley, but yes, I am also a big fan of Riley.
mhm. So this is the second issue. The first one was a lot of fun. This one has, says, "You sure you want to double down on this gimmick? All right, do it." Harley Quinn back again to tell. So they're doing this in the voice of Harley Quinn. So, you sure you want to double down on the gimmick? All righty then. Harley Quinn back to tell you that my missions to help heal Gotham has already hit some bumps in the road. The awful Hugo Strange psychiatrist, fitness freak, and expert on tiny glasses trying to deal with Gotham City clown problem. And get this, the city is endorsing him while everyone else keeps giving me a grief. The only person who believes in me is my new sidekick, Kevin. You okay over there?
Is it over?
You're going to find out some real dark stuff about him in this issue, too. We're both going to... Let's hear your Harley imitation.
No. Although, okay, so another weird aside, because we've taken a bunch of these tonight. I'm buying what they call a microphone agitator, is kind of the name that they use, but what it means is that I can have an effects pedal for my microphones.
Cool.
And so one of those is a gender bender. So on one of the pedals, I can basically talk normal, but I could do Harley Quinn like this. I could kind of do this accent and press the button, and it would turn it into a female voice. It's a voiceover artist trick.
I don't need technology.
I understand, but I do the impressions I do. I don't do other impressions,
I do a lot of impressions. So
Right.
We're just tipping the iceberg here.
All right. No, it's so Harley is a good guy is weird.
Yes.
Hugo Strange is a bad guy is normal.
Right.
And I love Hugo Strange stories.
Yeah.
Love Hugo Strange stories.
An underrated Batman villain. Oh, and
Absolutely.
I love D.D. Wong's his version of him, his portrayal of him on Gotham. He was really good.
He's great and everything, but yes, he was. I didn't really watch Gotham except for that issue or that episode, and I was freaking floored by it.
Yep. So Harley's trying to save Gotham. Hugo's trying to stop him and is trying to figure out the clown. And she's got a sidekick named Kevin who's got some dark past. And we're going to find out about that this episode or issue.
Mm-hmm. There is a Derek Chew variant that's very cool. It's kind of got that art germ kind of feel to it, but I prefer the original Riley Rossimo cover, which is the cover you're seeing on screen.
This is a fun book. Should be picking it up.
Yes. Then the last book from DC on our list is a manga crossover.
Yes.
That DC has gotten the rights to this series, and now the Justice League feels like a manga, and I can get behind it. The DC universe and the world of Ruby collide in this new miniseries. Discover Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, and Diana Prince as of Remnant as Team Ruby comes face to face with the new versions of DC's Paragons of Justice. So part of this is you need to know a little bit about Ruby. That kind of research, I would just suggest a quick Google search. You don't need to read or watch Ruby, even though you can watch Ruby on streaming to really get it. But a quick Google search will get you everything you need to know. But this is much like some of those DC animated series where they reinvent they kind of give that anime feel to DC superheroes. This is that in a comic book. And it's a super fun way to look at it. And it's written by Marguerite Bennett. Mirka Andolfo covers.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. Beyond, Ruby is one of the greatest anime of the last decade. One of the best manga of the last decade. It didn't last nearly long enough. And now that DC has the license for it, there are a lot of really great opportunities. Mm-hmm. And just look at Wonder Woman right there in the front, man.
Yeah. And if you've got a manga-loving friend, this is a book to pick up for them to get them into the Justice League. Reel them over. Always be on the lookout for crossover stuff like this that you can bring your friends over into it, and or your kids. If you're a comic reader and you've got kids who are into manga, and you've been wondering how to get them to read comics, there you go.
Right. When I had my store, one of the most common questions we had is we'd have a dad or a mom come in and say, hey, I read Spider-Man and Superman and Batman as a kid, but now my kid is into this manga and I don't get it. What can I get them that I'll be able to understand? This is a great opportunity. And at the same time, you have young people. And when I say young people, I mean teenagers who are addicted to manga. It's the fastest growing sector of the book market right now. Graphic novels and manga, who are just absolutely addicted to it and gobbling it up by the pound. This is a great way to introduce them to some of the tent poles of the comic book world. And that's always the goal, right? That's how you sustain and survive and grow, is by growing readership. And the way you do that is by introducing people who are here for something else to this.
Yep.
So
absolutely. So you say that's one of the most questions you got when you ran your shop?
Is what can I get my kid into? Similar to what I can get into, or my kid is into this thing. What's something that I can read to understand it?
I thought for sure the top question you'd get is, do you have a bathroom?
Well, I had a sign on the door that said no public bathroom.
You act like people read signs.
Yeah.
You still got asked, didn't you?
Not nearly as often as you'd think.
Huh. Surprised.
And when I did get asked, I'd remind them that mostly dudes worked there. And did you really want to take that chance? Or you could go next door to the Subway and buy a cookie and use their very nice one.
You had a Mrs. Fields next to you?
No, I had a Subway.
Oh.
And the cookie was the cheapest thing on the menu.
Cool.
Had to buy something to use the bathroom? Buy a cookie. You don't want the cookie? I'll give you a cookie worth discount on whatever you buy from me.
Nice.
All right. So we got to take one more break here on The Experience. We will be back after these things.
No, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go.
With the last of our books for this week. And if we have time, maybe you look forward to next week. So we will see everybody in just a few minutes.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Experience. I am Kyle. I just want to remind you that tomorrow night we have great shows for you here on The Experience, including Rupp's World tomorrow night at 8, where you'll get to visit with Chris Rupp of Rupp's Comics in Fremont, and they will have good stuff. And then Thursday, we have a great interview with Bob Sally from Source Point Press, who's got a book coming out called Broken Gargoyles, followed by What's in the Box with Miss Jen and Nerd News Now. And then on Friday, we have So Much Cosplay, Virtual Signings with Henri. Another great interview rewind from our EXP Expo, and Friday Night Live from Comics Unlimited with Nancy McCann from Cleveland, Tennessee. So tune in for those things here at the end of the week.
That's kind of strange. I can actually see myself now. I haven't been able to see myself since we've been starting the show.
Strange indeed.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I want to apologize for everybody who's been watching the show. Jesus.
Well, I will say this. I'm on the show, so the ugly level is high. We were talking about this, and I go, I'm building. So this is, and I'll tell everybody this now because we got some time. This will be the last of these shows from this studio for me. New studio is almost done. I move the computers and stuff in tomorrow and wire up the mic array and camera setup and that kind of thing. But we're building the studio, and I told them to build the desk at 40 inches tall. And people are going, why would you build it that tall? I go, because it's the only way with my camera arms to not have this angle. And nobody wants to see up my nose. So we had to build this really tall desk to get the camera arrays right. And it's very funny.
You guys remember the Noid from Domino's? He lives up Kyle's nose.
You need to avoid him.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if your pizza isn't there in 20 minutes, I'm not paying for it. So, big books out. Some more books that are out this week. This one's a big one. Berserker #2 from Boom Studios.
Yep. Some guy named
important
Keanu Reeves worked on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's important to know that there are some promotional things happening with Berserker #1, Berserker #2. Just be patient with your local comic shop as they work through it, because it's incredibly complicated. That involves giving away books and giving away lithographs and stuff. It's wildly complicated, and local comic shops are going to have to figure out how to do it kind of in the moment. So just be patient with your stores tomorrow. Just because you think you deserve something doesn't mean your local comic shop can just give it to you. And at the same time, just because you want it doesn't mean they know what they're doing. So give them some time. Don't be a jerk. I've let all of my friends who own local comic shops know that if you are a jerk, just to give me your free stuff. And if you don't like it, you can come here and fight me. Be nice. Don't be a jerk. But Berserker #2, issue #1 was so good. Issue #2. Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of attention. They may have enough money now to buy some vowels.
It's true. Well, there are so many vowels in Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
they were out of any left.
Yeah, they were out of ease.
Right. Well, there are 3 in his name, 4 in his name. You need 1, 2, 3, 4 in Berserker.
Yep.
So he just borrowed, I guess, is what happened. But just, it's the first issue was really good. The second issue is slated to be just as good. There are 2 1 in 20 secret variants that people weren't aware of when they ordered this book for #2 by Rafael Grampa. So be on the lookout for those. Those will certainly be hot on the market. So just be on the lookout for those. I really, really, really dug #1. Didn't think I would. I love Matt Kint, but I'm not all about this celebrities writing comic books, just being inherently good thing. But it seems like, one, I know Keanu put the work in, and two, it seems like he was really, really interested in making sure it was really good.
Mm-hmm. That would be Ken Reeves now. If we took away all his vowels.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That was a thing. Somebody was sharing that meme. Take the vowels out of your name and see what's left.
Yeah.
And depending on what a Y is in a given situation, I have very few letters left in my name. Because Y is sometimes a vowel.
Yes.
So
I remember the little rhyme. Yeah.
Right, but I never knew what the qualifications were. I told you I failed English.
I think we've all basically failed English because I don't think anybody could tell you what the qualifications are because I don't know if they actually exist because there's always sometimes why.
Right. But like what, when? Other books that are out from Boom Studios that are worth noting, and I didn't necessarily pull all the covers. You have a new Once in Future 18, which has been phenomenal. Firefly, number 28, and Abbott, 1973, number 4. We're getting towards the end of this second series. Huh?
Just said, hey, Abbott.
Okay.
Doing an Abbott and Costello joke.
Yeah, I just couldn't understand you over my own voice.
Because, modern and hip, I'm doing an Abbott and Costello joke.
Right. In this relationship, who would be Abbott and who would be Costello?
I think you'd be Abbott. You'd be the straight man.
That seems fair. That's always what I'm good at. When I do plays and stuff, I was always the straight man. Mm-hmm. Unless they let me put on a voice. Then it's like, oh, if all of a sudden I have a Brooklyn accent, I'm the comedy. But Abbott 1973, which is coming to the end of its run. The second volume of Abbott, which has been phenomenal. This was one that Dan had on his list that I wanted to bring up because it's one of the oldest comic book properties that I know of.
Yes. This is a great play. If you haven't been reading Dejah Thoris, Dan Abnett has been hitting it just out of the freaking park. He's working on multiple books. He's doing the Dejah Thoris that just wrapped up. He's doing Red Sonja, and he's doing Vampirella. But he's doing the Red Sonja, the Superpowers, and Vampirella, the Dark Powers series. Well, this is a one-shot of Dejah Thoris. So if you haven't been reading Dejah Thoris, but maybe you saw the movie of John Carter, or you've read the books when you were younger, this is a great jumping on point. It has this beautiful cover by Joseph Michael Linsner. And this is a standalone one-shot, so you can jump in and get a full story. Dejah has just saved her world, which is Barsoom, which is what they call Mars. And from the catastrophic Endwinter, now she must help rebuild Barsoom into his former greatness. But, of course, certain groups are trying to stop her, and she's going to need some help, and she may find it in the return of John Carter. So John's been missing for a while, so he may be coming back. But then I know that there's a new series that Dynamite just announced, which is Dejah Thoris versus John Carter. So this might be a hinge pin to the new series. So this would be a good book to pick up this week.
Please don't base your John Carter feelings on the movie.
I didn't think the movie was that bad.
It wasn't, but a lot of people didn't have the back knowledge going into the movie.
Yeah.
That you needed to really dig the movie. I dug the movie because I had read the books. But I'm just, if you're out there going, man, I saw that movie, I didn't get it. We understand, but please don't base all of your decisions on that.
If you're a fan of Adam Strange from DC, that's John Carter. It's the same premise.
Mm-hmm. So, a book that made both of our lists this week.
Mm-hmm.
Bell, King of Serpents, #1 from Zenescope.
It's another one of their one-shots where they get to play with the character and you get a chance to jump in. And this says a greater evil has been slipping into the Grimm universe lately. Not one corner of it will be left safe. Belle is going to find out firsthand as she comes face to face with one of the most vicious and deadly creatures in all of existence, the King of Serpents. And yes, that is Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm. And that thing behind her is a snake man.
Yes. Yes, the King of Snakes. The King of Snakes. Which I guess would make him a cobra.
Yeah. But not the one that rises. That's just a regular. Sorry, that was a G.I. Joe joke.
Yeah, I got it.
But can we talk about real quick the Harvey? Is it Talabau cover?
I'm not familiar with it. I didn't even see that one. That is cool.
Yes. This is the Harvey. I believe it's pronounced Talabau. Tolibao. Talabau cover, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
There is a David Nakayama more traditional sort of Zenescope Pretty Lady cover.
Mm-hmm.
But the covers that for me always intrigue me most on these books, and we talk about how the covers are so often from Zenescope used to lure you in. The covers are nothing like the insides of the books most of the time. They're just used to grab your attention.
Mm-hmm. Which all covers are for, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's to the point where sometimes the covers are ill-reflective of the interiors.
Yes.
This, however, grabbed my attention super fast, and really kind of grabbed me, and it's why it made my list. Was this cover? So, I love the one shots. It's Dave Franchini and Igor Vitorino did the A cover.
We should get Dave on the show to talk about some of the new things that Zenescope's been doing, and they're.
Let's work on that. You and I can work on that.
I'll reach out to him.
Yeah. We'll talk after this show, after we get off the air tonight about it, because I have an idea. So, but let's just remind everybody, it's a $5.99 40-page book, and everything from Zenescope. Just remember that these guys love to play in these universes, and that's why they do it. So just, you're taking a little bit of a chance, but not really. Jump on it. It will be worth your time.
Different take on characters you're familiar with in a different way. Yeah.
Yes. So I have some books that are still on my list. Or this is also one that was on Dan's list and my list.
Yeah.
I knew I was forgetting one.
Take it away. You can have this one.
Cyberpunk 2099 from Dark Horse Comics. This is the world. You Have My World #1. So this is based off of the video game Cyberpunk 2099 that, was a highly sought after and wildly coveted video game that didn't work. Just want to point out that when it came out, it was broke. But that didn't slow down the fervor that came with this game. And so now you're telling additional stories from that universe through comics. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the writer's name, but it's Jesus Herves is the artist and cover artist.
Bartosz Zetibor.
I'm relatively sure that's not right. I'm relatively sure that his last name is like Shashevsky, where the letters don't make any sense with the sounds. But just know that this is a wildly popular franchise. The IP is one of the biggest going right now. And they're telling additional canon stories from the video game outside the video game in the comic. Yeah. Dan, have you played Cyberpunk 2099? Are you a video gamer?
I am a video gamer. I have not played it. I've got a lot of different games I play and just haven't had a chance.
Yeah. There was a big bug fix, at least for the PC version, but yeah, sadly, way too late. I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be kind of like Destiny 2 was, where it was hot at the beginning and then it died off for a while and then it came back. So that's kind of my pick on this one, is that because it's still such a cool property, they'll announce an expansion or another thing that will draw people back to the game once it's fixed.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Next thing on my list is we already talked about that one. Shadow Doctor number 3 from Aftershock Comics.
The Mob Doctor.
It is a story about the mob, and it gets really mobby in this book. This is the story of Peter Calloway's actual grandfather, Nathaniel Calloway, who was a black doctor in Chicago around about the 1920s, and because of the inherent racism of the time, couldn't get a loan to start a practice, couldn't get hired at a hospital. So he went to the only people who were willing to help him. And you can kind of guess who that is there on the cover. Al Capone and the Capone gang. This is a real life story. I don't know how much creative license Peter has put in his grandfather's story, but this is a real life story. I have a friend who's a historian in Chicago who has actually shown me documents with the man's name on it. It's really cool. But Nathaniel got what he wanted. He had the money, a gift from Al Capone to start his medical practice. He was going to be a doctor, and then a bomb went off. In the chaotic aftermath, with life on the line, Nathaniel was going to learn what taking money from the mafia truly meant. So it's a story about, what happens when you get into bed with people you maybe shouldn't, even if it's for the right reasons, and how you have to pay your debts sometimes. So
it's one of those books you read and you go, wait, this is real?
Mm-hmm. Truth is most often stranger than fiction. And that's the thing I've learned with digging around and hanging out with historians, is that the real things are not any less weird than the things that we make up.
Yeah.
Someday when you come to Toledo, we will have I'll have to show you the Purple Gang hangouts, which was Capone's Toledo contingent.
Cool.
Capone himself, maybe never here. No, there's no proof that he was ever here, but he had an active working part of the gang here, and it's wildly fascinating. And now we've turned it into a mall, because that's of course what we do. So a company that's really high up on the release radar this week with 5 releases is American Mythology Press. They have a Zorro book, Zorro and the Land of Time Forgotten number 2, Hatchet, Vengeance number 3, The Robonic Stooges Return, which is a 3 Stooges story, and starring Sonia Devereaux, Death Team 5 number 1, Warrior Women. But we're not going to talk about any of those. We're going to talk about one of my favorite slow coming out ongoing series, Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children, from American Mythology Press.
That is such a good cover.
It really is a great cover. There is a B cover that I will also show you by Vincent Spencer. But the book is by J.C. Vaughn with art by Joanna Estep. Let me load this up real quick, and I will keep talking about it because for whatever reason, I can only do one thing at a time with my brain. But this is Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children. They're calling this the annual number 1, but this is actually a number 2. Well, not really. It's technically a number 3, but it's number 2, but it's not. This book got really messed up by COVID. Issue number 1 came out to huge kind of renown in the indie world. And then COVID happened. And number 2 came out right before the shutdown. And the book couldn't run the way they wanted it to. So to relaunch and kick things back off, they've essentially combined issues 3 and 4 into this. This is a 48-page annual size without any ads. With the title befitting its new format, Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children, King Size Giant Special Giant Annual number 1, features All of My Ex-Boyfriends Are Monsters, Really, by Andrew Sands and Joanna Estep. Renee by Mark Ricketts and Micah Clark Ferriter. Pua by Art Holcomb and Ed Catto. Preserved by J.C. Vaughn, Brandon Frame, and Brian Frame. And Toothpick Warriors by J.C. Vaughn and Mark Wheatley. So this one is clearly Toothpick Warriors, is this cover. So the thing about these is they're mini horror comedies. They're horror stories, but not that scary horror stories. Do you remember the Piranha Press book? Bedtime Stories for Ugly Children?
Yeah.
Think that, where nothing really has to tie into anything, it just kind of comes out, but a little more direction for this one. So this is Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children. And then this is the A cover. That was the B cover. I do love this cover with the aliens.
I'd be torn between those two. I like them both.
I think I got both. So
good call.
I'm that guy. But then my pick of the week is the Modern Frankenstein or Frankenstein, depending on your political views. This is from, of course, a company that I talk about every week and that I absolutely love, Heavy Metal. This is a sort of modern retelling of the Dr. Frankenstein's monsters story. It's written by Paul Cornell, who did Doctor Who and Wolverine, and acclaimed artist and writer Emma Vicelli, who did Doctor Who and Life is Strange. This is a story of a woman named Elizabeth, who's a brilliant young medical student, and she falls in love to Dr. James Frankenstein. And he wants to further medical science by all means necessary. Of course he does, because his last name is Frankenstein.
Yes.
How far is Elizabeth prepared to go? A twisted horror romance that walks the fine line between attraction and fear.
So they're telling it from his fiance's point of view, basically, from the original novel.
Correct.
Love it.
But it's also set in modern times, as opposed to the original,
right?
Which was set when the original was written. It was modern times then.
Yeah.
But this is modern times now.
Exactly.
So this is my pick of the week, the Modern Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, again, depending on your political views. So check this one out. Paul Cornell, great writer. Emma Vicelli is a killer artist, and the cover is by Pippa Boland. And I like the style of the cover too.
Yeah, it's a good looking book.
It's kind of got that serpents wrapped around the cross kind of. I know there's a name for that thing that's the symbol for medicine, but
yeah, it's a Mercury's staff basically. But yeah, there's a term for it.
Yeah, it's kind of got that feel to it, and it's part of their Magma Comics line, which is an imprint at Heavy Metal that I will do a terrible job of explaining, but I will get someone here to explain to everyone what Magma is from Heavy Metal. Even if that means I have to call Joe Illich. So
bring him on. Come on, Joe. Come talk to us.
Yeah.
We like plugging
Absolutely, I would love to. Also, at some point, we'll have some people on from Behemoth. I'm working on it. So we will Dan and I will see you next week with potentially a very big guest. That I still have to confirm. Well, we've been talking about it, but we've never set a date.
Oh.
So every week, next week could be potentially the week. So we will get that worked out, and we will see everybody next week on In Stores This Week. For Dan,
He's Kyle.
yes, I'm Kyle. We will see you then. If
Keanu Reeves.
I can't. It's not. Well, it depends on your perspective. It might be bigger than Keanu Reeves if you're a comic book nerd. But I appreciate that. I would love to book Keanu Reeves, but I don't even know how to go about reaching out to him. Yeah. I've lost my train of thought, Dan.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. We'll see you next week. Please join the experience over the next few nights. There'll be some great shows. Have a great evening. We'll talk soon. Check out the Comic Shop Locator for local shops in your area. Good night, everybody.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.